Hey,
Hi, Bruce.
Hi,
Hey.
Bruce, and hi,
Bruce.
Ruth. Yeah.
Bruce.
I'm switching computers.
Oh, I was going to say Michael and Ruth are going to be in two separate rooms, but no, they're so. All right. Hello. Oh, we're already recording. Hi, guys. Welcome to our first night of, we're just us, right? Yeah. It's not TV here. We are not so professional and meticulous. It's just us. We make mistakes. We press record before we're ready. And then we're like, oh, shoot, it's already recording. So we're already recording. Welcome tonight. We're talking about, we're starting. What are we starting? Uncle Pink. First night, chapters.
All
1.
right.
Right.
Somebody else needs to open next time. Chapters 1 and 2 on Uncle Pink. All right, with the author in residence, Bill Wynn.
Howdy.
Hi, Bill.
Hey.
We read the first 2 chapters on our drive down here this week together. I've already read it, but we read it together and it was really good.
Very
Anybody got anything? No pressure because the author's on here, so
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like I'm the author. I mean, I'm just one of you guys.
That's true. You are.
I did lend it to a friend and she really enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
Very nice. Very nice.
Did she bring it back, Howard?
Well, yeah, I went and picked it up yesterday.
Hey, I'm getting my book back.
Well, Howard read it really fast. Right, Howard?
Yeah, 2 days, day and a half, 2 days.
Yeah. He read it.
Wow.
I read mine in one day.
Yeah, it's an
Wow.
intriguing.
Wow.
We were having frozen weather in January, and that's unusual for us in New Orleans.
Wow.
So I just bundled up, read the book, loved it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. That is unusual for New Orleans.
Very.
I really did love it. The description, the beginning just captures you, with the man and the woman on the train and the little boy, and your heart just goes out to him, because he just has to go to the bathroom, and they're just terrible. Oh my gosh, they're so horrible.
Oh, man.
I
I know.
But
Yeah, really brings wanna- out the tears in a few places. You really want to hate him.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very detailed. That said, what I love was the first 2 chapters. It's so captivating, but it's very detailed. You're instantly set up. You've got a picture of what's going on, and you don't know. I don't know where it's going, but it's just so the detailed. What caught me as she was reading, just everything's so detailed. You really instantly realize they were grifting. They were bad news, and they didn't care about the boy, and it just everything got set up to where, boy, this kid's in trouble, man. You really saw immediately what a rough shot he had, from the very beginning. It's like, man.
So there's no indication at the beginning that he doesn't belong to them, only I knew that because I've talked to you, but if I were just reading it for the first time, I would think he's their child.
Yeah.
There's really nothing. I guess it could go either way.
Well, isn't there a part in the chapter where they say something about we need him because,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they make a statement that they need him for something.
Yeah.
They say we need him. We can't score without him.
Exactly.
Right.
But
And
Yeah, that's right. They were using
that
him.
immediately told me that
Yeah.
this was not their child. They had no love or affection for this child.
That's true.
And then when they said, well, let him go, and I think the man said, let the dogs get him.
Yeah.
Well, then I realized they were just using him.
Yeah.
I don't know how they came into possession of him, but they were using him.
Yeah. Yeah. I still wasn't, I wouldn't have been sure that he wasn't theirs, because anybody can have a kid and still have no affection. And, they're just terrible people, but, when they didn't, they just let him go. Obviously he's not there, but it still, in my opinion, could go either way. You could have it either way. after that, but you decided that he wasn't theirs, right? Do we find out, just an author question, do we
Yeah.
find out at some point whose he is?
Yeah, you do. You find in chapter 7 there's a hint
Okay.
about the situation when he and his granddaddy Warner are under the sycamore tree.
Oh,
So I won't go there in case anybody hadn't read that far. But
Oh, boy, it's a heavy chapter, man.
yeah, but then in book 2, and I hope this is not a spoiler, the man from the train car makes an appearance
oh,
Wow.
in
shit.
book 2.
Oh, wow.
And when Pink is an adult and they have a conversation,
Oh,
and he tells
Wow.
Pink,
Man.
he tells Pink where he came from.
Wow.
good
Oh,
job.
when do we get
Well,
to read the second part now?
That's pretty bold. That's
Yeah.
pretty bold.
I'm working on book 2. I'm about 15, maybe 20,000 words into book 2, but so far I like it better than the first one.
Now you got us curious.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think, what is it, November?
Yeah, October, November. Yeah, that's my goal. Is to. I mean, I was writing notes down on little scraps of paper today and shoving them in my pocket. I've discovered a new character today, and she is going to be absolutely wonderful. She's a elderly Black lady, very maternal, grandmotherly, full of wisdom. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Cool.
Well, I
Yeah.
think because I had to, I'm rereading the book so I can, kind of be relevant in the conversation. But even between like chapters 1 and 2, like chapter 1, there's so much tension.
Yeah.
And then, well, it's still chapter 1. And then like the next part is like meeting the Malone family. And it's just like, there's such just buildup of tension. And I'm like, oh, the Malone family. Oh, okay. They're nice. It was just like this relief, this,
Yeah.
this let go of like, oh, this little boy, what's going to happen? Oh, no. So that was, I don't know. Today I really felt that reading that again.
I have one question, Bill.
Uh-huh.
I was just curious of the age or whatever of the girls was never given of, what was it, Vicky and
Oh yeah. Vicky. I have a whole family tree. That was something that I didn't anticipate. Because originally this whole Uncle Pink thing was just going to be a collection of silly stories and antics, that family stories, and almost all of the shenanigans in this book are true stories that really happened. If you read chapter 6, All the Buzz About Bees, that's a true story. My father did that in 1945.
that was hilarious.
Cleared a whole church with his pea shooter. But anyway, yeah, all of them are based on true stories. Rats, Corn, and Gasoline. My best friend and I. Yep, that's a true story. The cow in the chapter Live Standing Up Cow. That's a true story. What's the chapter I didn't mean to with the rooster? I did that.
Oh,
That's
that
me.
one, yeah.
So originally it was just going to be that, what I call a tank book. If you know what a tank book is, you throw it on the back of the toilet tank and you read it 5 or 10 minutes at a time, just a little short story that you could read and then put away. And Davina, I was taking a writing class with Robin. I think John was in that class. There was a bunch of folks in that class. Wes Tarpley was in there. And anyway, Robin had said, just write 500 words a day, even if it's just about the weather. So, okay, I'm sitting and I'm just writing whatever. And Davina came in and she says, what if Uncle Pink isn't related to anybody in his family? And I mean, it opened the whole thing up. And
Wow.
I had a little quiet time with the Holy Spirit. And the next thing I wrote were those first words in the first chapter, click, clack, click, clack. And I, all throughout the book, I saw these chapters play out in my mind as like a movie, and I'm writing as fast as I can write to try and show what I'm seeing. And it became so vivid for me in the writing class. I asked the group a question. I said, I'm starting to develop a connection and a feeling to some of these characters, and they're not even real. And I'm going back and I'm reading some of the stuff that happens to them, and I start crying or I weep, and my heart breaks for them. And I said, do I need therapy? You know, maybe.
I
But
remember that.
yeah, so
Yeah.
in the first chapter, when I wrote the first part of that chapter, I felt cold, like uncomfortably cold. And when the part came where they bundle him up by the fire, I mean, I could feel that. I could feel that warmth. And I just told Davina, I said, man, I just hope that, you know, whenever, if ever, I didn't know if it would ever be published or if I would ever finish it. Because, you know, like Wes was in the class and he said that, you know, this one week he wrote 20,000 words and my mouth fell open. I was like, how
I know.
how do you write 20,000? I mean, my master's thesis was 20,000 words. I worked on that thing for, I don't know, 4 months. And he did that in a week. But yeah, I mean, you just, you know, how they say the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And so if you
Yeah,
write
that's
some
right.
every day, you know, by and by, what is Uncle Pink is 63,000 words. So yeah, the first 2 chapters came out of me in a matter of a couple of hours,
Love that.
as fast as I could write them down. In fact, it was all one chapter initially, and then when I put everything into Fictionary, there were suggested, like, okay, this chapter is a little long, so I started working on. I didn't know anything about scene breaks, so I started working on scene breaks and breaking up some of the chapters into smaller chapters, so they were a little bit more, you know, accessible and maybe bite-sized.
In fact, Bill, you should consider in the second book maybe putting a family tree at the beginning of
Yeah, I could. Yeah, because
Family tree. Oh, yeah.
that was the original question. I got way down a rabbit hole. So let me pull that up. I'll pull up the family tree here. It's not a tree, it's just a list. Where is it? It's under it's bios. Yeah, so it was about Vicky. Let's see. So each person in my list here, it tells me who they are, who they're married to if they're married, and there's a number at the end, and that number represents how old they were on the day they found
Smart.
Pink. So I can kind of keep track of it. And incidentally, because my bride is here with me, they find Uncle Pink on November 15th
That's bigger.
because that's the day we got married.
Aww.
And
Wow.
I spent 5 years from the day of my father's death. I held his head in my lap and watched him die, essentially. And I got really angry at God, and I just felt lost, like completely lost. And the day Davina married me was the first day I could remember thinking that maybe God loved me, and it was the day I felt found. So that's why he's found on November 15th.
Wow.
That
Beautiful.
I like.
So
it.
Vicky was born in 1900. She was 14. Edward James Malone was born in 1899. He was he was not born in 1899. he was born in 1897. 1897. I have a typo there. He was born in 1897, and so all of those dates, you know, and who's married to who? Leola Catherine Reeves, born in 1890, wife of C.D. Malone. She was 22 when they found Uncle Pink, and it goes all the way through. Butch Coe, Millie Scobb, Lucy Pincham, David Mayfield, Constance Alishire, Maggie Alishire, Beauregard and Dorothy Harris, Rufus Floyd, Reuben James, Donnie Briscoe, Dr. Ray Silverthorne, Lima Barnett, Virginia Nelda Lowell. So yeah, I mean, every character in this book, I'm trying to keep track of, you know, their names, their maiden names, and
Okay, well, I'm one of those nerdy people that I read that in the beginning of the book, you know, when they have that family. Oh, see, Joyce does.
okay.
When they have all the family stuff at the beginning. Oh, yeah, I read it. I look and see who was
So you
born
read
when.
the Gats, huh?
I do. I
Yeah. I was about to say the same thing.
love
You're one of those only people that goes to numbers and go, yes.
I do. Like on page 5, because you know our heart kind of breaks for Pink, you know, for this little boy. But then you put in here, nodding his head in the affirmative, but not speaking. The boy began crying softly. Tears streaked down his little face, and he lowered his head. He was well trained in manipulating hearts. That was a
Wow.
really good line, because I
Yeah.
never thought about that for a 4-year-old. But yeah, he would have definitely been well trained in manipulation.
Survival skill, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a survival skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He was their tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a little kid. He's 4 years old. He can't overpower them and take what he needs.
Wow.
He doesn't have any money. I mean, the boy doesn't even have socks on. And when I wrote that, I mean, it broke my heart for him. No socks.
Yeah.
Imagine what his little feet looked like coming out of those old leather shoes, you
Yeah.
know, if they even had soles on them. But yeah,
Interesting.
abusers.
Interesting because he's in a life or death situation and he obviously knows it.
Yeah, so that's the only tool he has.
Like his last opportunity, you know. I mean, and
Is
he uses what he knows. Even though
hoping for
they're
sympathy.
probably going to pick him up anyway because they're compassionate, you know. But
Yeah.
he doesn't know that because all he knows is what he's known.
So you give us a glimpse into his heart, you know, into what he's come out of. And
Yeah.
you know, all we had seen so far was just the outward, and now you kind of showed us how his little mind is working.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's very
Yeah, he's alone. He's scared. I think that's at the end of the paragraph where he makes his way off the train, that he is finally free from those two, but the cost is a lot higher than he thought it would be.
Wow.
Wow.
What a decision at that age. I mean, at that age. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's I can't remember the lady's name. Wow. Anyway, it's a book. I'm a chaplain with the sheriff's department here, and he gave us all a book on caring for first responders. And this lady, she's been a counselor forever and trauma therapist, and she goes into great detail about the midbrain and the hippocampus, which I mean, I just read that stuff a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, apparently when you are so overloaded and in fear, there's other parts of your brain that take over that don't know.
Mm.
There's no moral compass when you get like in severe cases. In severe cases, when you make somebody so afraid, there's a section in your midbrain that takes over, and all it knows is kill or be killed. That's all it knows. There's no morality there. There's no values, no character. There's nothing in that part except kill or be killed.
Mm.
And so you will, you know, it's
Fight or flight.
No, that's equal.
Yeah, fight or fright is in the hippocampus, apparently up in the front. When
That's
when
right.
fight or flight doesn't work and this part of the midbrain takes over, that's when people they just go nuts. So I don't think Lil Pink got that far, but
Well, thankfully he got found at 4 years old, I mean,
yeah.
can you imagine if he had been with that other couple until, like, let's say the age of 12 or 15, and what he would have been like.
Yeah.
Probably unapproachable,
Yeah, a delinquent more than likely by then.
Mhm. Mhm.
Wow.
Well, Bill, I want to tell you that when I got to that line about the cost of his liberation was cold, hunger, and darkness, he was alone, that there was a price to liberation. I think I even told you, it made me cry and had to close the book.
Oh,
Couldn't open it for days, and kept thinking about that because it's just so true. It's so true, and was in my life for sure.
yeah.
I guess I just could relate to it so much.
Yeah, good.
That's interesting, Joyce, because you realize how common that is, maybe 4, 5, 6, but you're right, it's such a timely. I mean, everyone's got, or not everyone, but a lot of people, I know I do, have a similar, like, hey, what are you gonna do at that age just to,
Yeah.
free and shoot, the trauma, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's different kinds of liberation. We can be liberated from a job that's maybe passive aggressive, or like in the case of a lot of us here, being liberated from wrong-headed thoughts about God, and that all of that liberation always comes at a price. But I think I would say for me, the price has always been like a catch-22. The things that I've had to give up for my own liberation in different ways, it really wasn't a price. It really wasn't a price at all, because those things that I thought I had to give up, they weren't good for me anyway.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So I mean, I was holding on to things that had no value. The only value they had was the value that I had assigned to them. And I don't know, I just saw that in this little boy. That's part of it too, was he's willing to pay it.
Yeah,
Some things are worth the price.
there was courage at that age. I mean, there's a little, I was thinking,
Yep.
like at 4, I mean, fine, there's just a bolt or a jolt of courage, to make that choice at that. I mean, at 4, I don't think I can remember what that would be like at 4,
Well, he does it again in book 2. There's an event that happens, that's it's fisticuffs with a larger kid, and it's over a girl, and she's worth the price. She's worth it, and he gets the worst of it, but it's all right. Some things are worth the cost.
And the prize, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine being 4, getting off of that train, and it's dark and it's cold, and you're all by yourself, and you don't even know where you're at. At 4,
Yeah.
that's just, yeah.
Yeah, any place is better than here sometimes, right?
So Michael and I used to we used to foster international children coming across the border, and this just touched my heart because of our experience with those children.
Oh,
And one that we had was she was about to turn 3, but she was so traumatized. She cried all the time. They didn't know where her mother was, and it was like she was trafficked across, but had been with her mother at one point. And she was so traumatized. She would cry all the time, like all the time. And I feel for Pink But I'm thinking, I mean, he was quiet. I know that little girl wouldn't talk to us, but there was a language barrier too, and she was just in this new world with no one she knew and people that didn't even speak her language, and it was devastating. But I can see even with Pink, maybe not even knowing the kindness that the Malones are giving him, so that's like a whole new world in itself. And so even though he's traumatized, there's a trauma with change too, even though it's for
Yeah.
the better, that I can. So that's kind of what I was that's what I was relating to, even though he seems to settle in, so.
Yeah, and it takes a while, and then is it it's the chapter, I forget, it's 22 maybe. It's the title of the chapter is I Didn't Mean To, and something goes wrong, and he knows he's in a little trouble, and those events always for Pink are opportunities for this thing in his head to come back and say this is it, this is the time. That's what happens in chapter 7. He's convinced, that this thing he's done is going to be the straw, that they're done with him. And it's book 3 when he finally gets over all that completely.
Wow.
And I think that's just organic,
Huh.
because
No, we won't forget.
yeah, I'm that way. Like, I know the Father, Son, and Spirit are absolutely crazy about me,
Okay.
but there are those moments when, golly, I mean, I get so overwhelmed with doubt and fear, and it's just like, where did that come from? And I'll even act in it sometimes. Davina can tell you, and I'm frustrated and vocal about my whatever's gone wrong, and Papa always just works it out and never shames me. That's something that I've noticed. I never feel ashamed when he works it out, in spite of my doubting.
Yeah.
I just hear him say, "Okay, so are you learning a little more now to trust me?"
Hmm. That's good.
Yeah. So that's part of what's going on with Pink. Pink is having to learn to trust the hearts of the people that claim to love him. And it ain't easy.
That can be hard.
It's hard.
Yeah, that can be really hard depending how much you've been through in life, That's why it's so important not to judge people so quickly, because you have no idea what they've come out of.
Right.
Exactly. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing with a lot of foster care homes. It is a lot of abuse in those foster homes. And what these kids sometimes go through at their young age is incredible.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are always opportunities, no matter where we are, for predators to ruin a good thing. But I think for Pink, one of the things that that was kind of odd in the beginning of writing it was, how does he get this name? It's kind of a weird name, and where the whole name Uncle Pink comes from is my dad and his cousins and a bunch of they were grown men my dad's age, but everybody was a boy. You know what I mean? Like my dad would go out to rabbit hunt. He wouldn't go with the other men from church. He's going with those boys.
With the boys.
Are you boys? What time are you boys going to go home? Just how people talk. Well, anyway, I think that that name Uncle Pink was always, if I remember right, was always attributed to any crazy stories, you know. Even if it was a joke somebody had heard and they retold it in our family, they would retell it, and the main character in the joke was this mythical Uncle Pink guy, right? And he was a mountain man, curmudgeon that lived by himself up on a mountain somewhere in Virginia, and you know, so I knew I wanted to keep that, preserve that, but I couldn't figure out a good way for him to be called Pink, because who would name their kid Pink? In fact, in one of the other chapters, when CD is away working, some of the guys ask him about it. It's like, wait, his name is what now? Did you name him that? You know, like who names their kid Pink? But when I was writing that part where he's standing in the kitchen floor not talking, I saw him do it. I saw it in my mind. I saw Mary Ethel. By the way, Warner and Mary Ethel, those are my dad's parents' name. My grandparents on my dad's side were Warner and Mary
love
Ethel.
Mary Ethel. She's so sweet.
And yeah, and I sent this to my first cousins on my dad's side, and I just said, you know, I hope that I did her justice, because she was the sweetest woman that I ever knew. I had a grandmother that you'd take your shoes off, don't sit here, don't sit there, the house is perfect, you know, and she loved us, but it was different. My grandma Mary Ethel didn't care about the house, climb up in my lap, you know, let's go for walks. We'd find arrowheads and, you know, just walk all over this 240-acre farm and just go for walks. And she taught us like this. I don't know where Becky is tonight, but she taught us all these little silly things, and she's going to teach those to Elijah. Pink's cousin has a kid in the second book, and she's going to teach Elijah this one. Fatty, Susan Katie, my cushy, Walsani, Sig Nanny, goody goody, ha ha. Well, that didn't mean anything, but she was a school teacher. She'd been a school teacher, and that's a memory device, right? You memorize that, and you know, here it is, 40 years later plus, and I still know it. So yeah, I saw him in my mind. I saw Mary Ethel standing at the kitchen sink wearing a pink apron, just like my grandma had. And the linoleum, if I had to paint the picture, the linoleum in front of the sink was white. The rest of it was a dark, rusty red. That was with a pattern on it. But in front of the sink, it was worn away. It was just white. She'd spent 50 years standing there, looking out the window, washing dishes, cooking food. And he just points at her apron and says the word Pink. And it's the only word he says. And that did it. That's why they call him Pink.
Love that.
Love it. Wow.
Yeah, I think what I love too is just, and this is kind of just because, you know, books lend this, but it's just a good story. Like there's goodness throughout, and then you get to meet this good family, and you get to see, you know, inside their head, not just, you know, their actions. Like you can see movies and you see, oh, you know, that's a family, or even, you know, the family that you grew up with, and you go, wow, there's families like that treat each other like that. That's, you know, and you kind of get a glimpse of that world, and you get a glimpse into, they really, I mean, they're not perfect, you know, but they love each other, and that kind of love is available, you know, in a family. So it's just, you know, a good feeling, like, oh, yay, book. To me.
Yeah, that's part of what I wanted to do. Was I wanted to I wanted to capture not the good old days, but the good of the old days.
Yeah, and some of us didn't have that growing up, you know.
Yeah.
Sure. That's right.
So I have a question. Who do
Okay.
you think taught Pink that was the color pink?
Huh? Good question.
That's a good question. How did he know that was the color pink? Somebody had taught him.
He was only 4. The man and woman he was with I doubt taught him anything,
No, they didn't teach him anything.
except how to probably beg on the street and look pitiful, and do his thing so that they could survive because of him. That came to me like, who taught him that? How did he know that?
Yeah. Well, you'll I think you'll get the answer in book 2.
I knew I was gonna have to wait till book 2.
Because, like I say, the guy from the train makes a brief appearance in book 2, and it's a watershed moment for Pink because he's an adult when that happens, and he's out in the middle of nowhere really when he encounters the guy, and he's in a I don't want to spoil this, but he's in a position where he can do whatever he wants to, and no one would ever know.
Good job, Bill, on writing, just from a writing standpoint of tying up your loose ends, of not forgetting about those things in book 2 or even in book 3 if you left it till book 3, and just tying up some of those things that we as a reader would want to know before the entire series is finished. So
yeah, so there's something that doesn't get tied up until the last chapter of book 3.
oh shoot,
And it's the
Book
biggest,
3.
it's the biggest question that people have asked me is, what is Pink's real name? He has to have a real name.
yeah, that's a good place.
Yeah, so it's the last chapter of book 3. Yeah, and I think it just, I saw it, I saw the whole thing play out, like I say, and I wrote it down as fast as I could, but I think it's pretty stinking cool how that came.
All I can say is if chapter 1 has me bawling, on this reporting, I can't imagine what the weeks to come will be.
Well, had me crying too.
When you get to 7, that'll kill you.
Yeah.
I've read the book, but
Yeah.
I'll have to
Read
go
it?
back
Oh,
and
yeah.
reread number
So you
7
know.
now that you said that.
Yeah.
Well, I read if I can go back right now and read chapters 6, 7, and 8, and yeah, I'll be crying too.
That's tough.
Yeah.
But it's good, man. It's good.
Thank
It's
you.
tough, but it's good.
Oh,
Yeah, and that sycamore tree is I'd love to go get a picture of it. It's this huge sycamore tree at the pond on my grandparents' farm. And my granddaddy and I would sit under that tree with our cane poles, and we'd fish in that pond. And golly, I don't know how many fish we caught there. Maybe next week I'll dig it up. I've got a picture from the News and Observer from 1977. I caught the biggest bass that had ever been caught in that pond, and my grandpa had to help me land it. But
Wow.
yeah, I got my picture in the paper.
How big was it, Bill?
It was 7 pounds, 7 ounces.
Fatty, yeah.
Yeah, which not, it's not a huge bass, but for a 7-year-old kid, yeah,
It was 7 pounds, 7 ounces. You were 7 years old in
yeah.
1977.
Yeah, there is that. So I was born in
Wow.
Yeah, I was born in 1970. I caught the fish in 1977 when I was 7 years old. And it was in July, which is the 7th month. And it weighed 7 pounds, 7 ounces. And when you count up all the 7s, there's 7 of them. Well, here's what's crazy. When I was 35, which is a multiple of 7, I wanted to buy a little Zebco 202 exactly like the one that I caught that fish with to give to my daughter Faith, who was at the time 2 years old. And I put in a max bid on eBay and forgot about it. And later, I won the bid for $7.77. And I called my sister and said, "You're not going to believe this." And she goes, "You need to go buy a lottery ticket right now." Which I didn't do, but
Well, I think we're all gonna be sad when book 3 comes out and we read it and it's finished and
Yeah, but I've got other stuff cooking. I've got some ideas for more books. So
Wonderful.
yeah, I'm trying to write down all my. I mean, I didn't know I could write a book. I took Davina said you get to take this writer's class. I said no because I'll probably be the only guy in there, and I won't fit in, and I'll say something dumb and offend everybody, and But she said no, you should do it. You should do it. Be good for you to do it, and I did. And man,
It was fun.
yeah, it was.
I
It
think
was
it's
great.
a good one because the Malcolm was in that original one.
Yeah, that's right. Cheryl was writing a book. In fact, that was Malcolm
Yeah.
leaned over. If I remember, when I asked, "Do I need therapy? Does this mean I need therapy?" And Malcolm says, "I think it means you're writing a bestseller."
Wow.
Which that was
Yeah.
good encouragement coming from a man that's written as many books as he has.
Oh man, he has one coming out next week or the week after, and I'll tell you what, I think it's the best one he's ever written.
Oh, awesome!
Really?
Very cool.
Wow.
And I've heard him teach on the prodigal son so many times, and this time in this book, oh man, it's so different than all the others. It's just the best.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, because his prodigal son teachings are some of the best I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I've listened to him.
This must
In fact,
really be good.
We're actually studying this son of mine in another group I'm in. Right
Oh,
now,
cool.
we're going through that book, and this is the second writing because I had the original book.
Yeah.
So I've been through it quite a number of times and referred to it. But I'm blown away with your words, what you're telling us.
But this one, Reward and Punishment, is wow, bar none. I mean, it is his best one on the prodigal.
Nice.
And what's the name of it, Robin?
Reward and Punishment. He does the entire Luke 15, so he does all the parables, not just the parable of the prodigal. He does
Really?
lost coin.
I
and
can't wait.
the-
Yeah, I want to read that one. 'Cause I have a theory about those parables, and I was fishing with Baxter Kruger one time, and I asked him this question: do you think Luke recorded those parables in the order that did Jesus tell him in that order? And I probably, that's the answer, probably. So if you look at the first parable, there's 100 and one gets lost, and that's 1%. The second parable, there's 10, one gets lost, that's 10%. When you get to the parable of the prodigal, you're all the way up to 50%. And my question was this: do you think that Jesus tells these parables the way he tells it? Because parables are more important than true stories because they're not true.
That's right.
Jesus can make anybody say or do. He can add any he does not lack for creativity. Every detail in a parable matters. So is Jesus in these parables leading us in a progression of thought to echo the sentiment of the Father that he is not willing that even one be lost?
Love that. Yeah.
So I don't,
So good.
just a thought.
That's a good thought.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
really good thought. Well, I am really excited about your book, Bill. I am loving it. So it's good. I mean, it's really good. It had our
Thank you.
on the
Yeah.
drive. Yeah.
It was real good.
So we'll continue 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
End of
Yeah, that's when you meet 3 and 4. You'll meet Sheriff Edwards.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the characters in this book are named. They're a mishmash of names. The preacher's name is it's a mashup of my pastor when I was a teenager and his wife's name. I made her name was Donna. I made it Donnie, and his first name was Briscoe, so I made that the last name. And it's just a tip of the hat to them. But the only name that survives as it truly was is Gordy Edwards. He was the lawman in our town, and he was immensely more gracious and kind to me than he should have been or that I deserved. I'll give you a for instance.
And merciful.
Yeah. So I mean, I grew up in this little, 6 miles outside of a little town called Chocowinity, North Carolina. It's like 900 people. We had one intersection with traffic lights on it, but I used to tell people when I would meet people in other places, I would tell them that we had 8 traffic lights in our town because there were 2 facing this way, 2 facing this way, and 2 facing that. They were all at the same intersection, but there were 8 traffic lights, right? Just trying to make our town seem a little bit less podunk, right? So anyway,
Got one traffic light in the whole county.
yeah, right. So one night,
One in the county, one traffic light.
that's right. So one evening, it was just getting dark enough that you put your headlights on. I had just gotten my first car. It was a 1968 Camaro, and I was pulling out to pass on a 2-lane road. I was passing this guy, and he sped up because he didn't want me to pass him. Well, that's easy. You know what to do there, right? You speed up.
Yeah.
And I saw these headlights coming in my lane, and this was literally what I thought. Well, he's got sense enough to get off the road. He's not going to hit me head on. I mean, who would do that? So I didn't move. I just went on and passed the guy, and sure enough, that other vehicle had to veer off almost in the ditch, but he didn't hit me. Well, the next day, my ag teacher, my shop teacher, I was a senior in high school. My shop teacher was out. And Gordy Edwards was the substitute, and he got his feet propped up on the desk in this little office, and there's a glass window. And when I walked in, he calls me in, and he says, "Hey," he says, "Billy, you ran somebody off the road last night." And I mean, my face turned white. I could feel the blood drain out of my face. Like, how does he know? And he looked at me, and he could tell I didn't know how he knew. He said, "Do you know how I know?" And I just shook I couldn't even speak. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. It was so dry. I just shook my head, and he goes, "Because that was me." The one lawman in the whole area, that's the guy I ran off the road.
Oh,
And all he said was, "Do I need to ride down?" We lived at our farm was at the beginning of about an 8-mile straight stretch called the Hodges Stretch. And he said, "Do I need to ride down to the Hodges Stretch and have a talk with Mr. Wynn?" And I said, "No, sir." "No, sir. It will never happen again." So it was, at least a half a dozen things like that where Gordy Edwards could have had me good, but he knew that, we weren't trying to rob and pillage, and we were just, kids being stupid, and he was trying to work with us and keep us out of trouble as much as possible. But I wrote to his one of his son graduated a year behind me in school, and his daughter graduated a year ahead of me, and I wrote to them and asked permission. He's graduated to the cloud of witnesses now, but I asked permission to use his name. I said, "I just want to honor your dad because he was a very fair lawman." And they said, "Sure, it'd be great."
awesome.
So yeah,
That's very cool. Wow. Good stories.
yeah.
That's like a book and having the author on, huh? Yeah,
It's really cool.
Wow.
I know. All right. Well, we'll do chapter 3 and 4 next week. I think 4 is a good place to end. I kind of was peeking through and it didn't look like it looked like 5. We'll just save for a week, but we'll do 3 and 4 next week, and we'll get
Okay.
on.
And
All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so
All right.
much.
That's
Wow.
great.
Yeah.
Love you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night, Deidre.
Bye. Good to